Welcome to my video on doing the Excel review practice problems for you guys to compare your answers with them. I'll start with questions 1, 2, and 3, which I'll put on the first sheet at the bottom of your Excel worksheet here, and then problems 4 and 5 will be on the next sheet, 6 and 7, 8, 9, and 10, and I'll put 11 at the end. So these are the groups that I've broken them into. So let's start with the first one where it's asking you to calculate 2 divided by 3. Quite simple, but it wants you to put it in 2 decimal places and then 3 decimal places, and then do the same thing with the second operation, which is asking you to add 36 to 50 and divide it by 5 and so on. So let's start, and I'm going to start with the first one, and here's my Excel sheet. So I'll start with 2/3, so equals 2 divided by 3. It's that simple. And divide is slash in Excel. And there is your 2/3. I'm going to make it a little wider so you can see more decimal places. Now for the first one, it says I want 2 decimal places. So come back here. You want to reduce this to 2 decimal places. You move up to the tab where it says numbers. And you see these 2 decimal things here. That's how you increase and decrease the decimal numbers. So here's increasing it, here's decreasing it. And if I want you to give me 2 decimal places, then you just drag this down to 2 decimal places. So 2/3 rounded to 2 decimal places is 0.67. Rounding it to 3 decimal places, just add a decimal place to it. So it'll be 0.667. And so on and so forth. So that's that. Let's move on to 36 plus 50 divided by 5, so equals, now a lot of you guys may want to type 36 plus 50 divided by 5. And that's exactly why I gave you that exercise. If you do this, you'd be incorrect. Because, see, Excel follows order of operations. So if you tell Excel to do 36 plus 50 divided by 5, Excel is going to first divide 50 into 5 because it's been programmed to do the multiplication first before addition and division. So it's going to do the division, it's going to divide 50 into 5, and then it's going to add it to 36. But that's not what you want. What you want here, what you've been asked to calculate, is not to divide 50 by 5 and then add it to 36. I'm asking you to add 36 to 50 first and then divide it by 5. So I'm asking you to go against the order of operations. And you'll see in Excel, if that happens, you may be forced to put the numerator in parentheses, emphasizing to Excel that, hey, I want you to do the numerators first and then divide the result by 5. And that will be the correct answer. So the answer is 17.2 for that one. Now the last one, 4 times 5 times 8 divided by 50, 2 times 50, 1 times 50. The best way to do this would be to just put the products in the numerator in one parentheses and put the products in the denominator in another one. So for the numerator, it'll just be 4 times, which is the asterisk in Excel on the keypad, 4 times 5 times 8. Close the parentheses, divide by, and then do the denominator, which is 52 times 51 times 50. And then close the parentheses. And that's the product of 4, 5, and 8 divided by the product of 52, 51, and 50, which is what it's asking you to do. So the answer is 0.0012066637. And at this point, you would just round this off to whatever decimal places your instruction is provided for you. So if I say round it to 3 decimal places, then you'll just lower the number of decimal places to 3. Sorry. There you go. So the answer to 3 decimal places will be 0.001. Very good. So that does the first one. So that's how you convert simple operations to decimals and adjust the decimal places. Let's move on to the second one, which is giving you a table of values, A and B, and it's asking you to find the sum of all the A's, sum of all the A squares. It's asking you to do A minus B squared divided by B, and it's asking you to find the sum of A minus B squared divided by B. Now, the first thing you need to recognize is that how many answers am I going to get for each one of these? Well, sum of A, you're looking only for one answer because it basically tells you to take all the A's and add them together. Sum of A squares also is only a single answer because what that's telling you is basically square every one of these A's and then add them together. The sum of A minus B squared over B, again, you apparently have a whole bunch of numbers and it's asking you to sum them. So again, for this one, you're going to get a single answer. The only one where you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs of answers will be this A minus B squared over B. There's no sum behind it. That means I don't want you to add these up. I just want you to produce them. So what you need to do with this is to take each pair, A and B, and do this to it. And when I do it, you'll see. So let's start with typing my A's and B's so I can work with them. My A's are 12, 40, 12, 5, and 6. And my B's are 18, 28, 7, 50, and 12. All right, and let me open them up a little bit so we'll be further away from each other. There we go. So here's my A and B, and put them in a different color and make it all pretty a bit. All right, so those are my initial A's and B's. Now I want to calculate the sum of A's. Well, if I want to calculate the sum of A's, then I'm just going to type what I'm calculating here. Let's say the first thing I want to do is sum of A's. Since I can't type math in Excel, I just have to type SUM instead of writing it mathematically like that. So that's sum of A. Well, what's sum of A? Sum of A is basically the sum of the numbers in A. So you can come over here and type equals sum, which is the command used to add up a bunch of numbers. And it says, what do you want to sum? You just say, I want to sum these numbers. You just select these numbers and then press. You don't even need to close the parentheses here. You just enter it. Excel understands that and it closes it for you. So the sum of A's is 75. You could have also figured out those sums right at the bottom of the row. Just change the color so you don't mix it up with the actual data from the table. So I don't know, give it a different color and come up here. It says, you see this under the editing tab where it says auto sum. Just double click the auto sum and you see the sum appearing here. So you don't have to actually type sum or whatever. So you could find the sum elsewhere by actually typing the command sum, or you could find the sum right under the numbers in which you're trying to sum up. And for that one, you don't need to write the command. You could just double click on the auto sum and it will sum it for you. And by the way, it's just I'm not asking for this, but if I was asking you for the sum of B's, you could have dragged this sum sideways and it would have given you the sum of the B's as well. So dragging things sideways and up and down copies the operation. And you drag him from this little corner, this little square corner here. You grab, hold, and you move, and it will fill up the rest of them the way it did it for the first operation. Anyway, so there is the sum of the A's. So that's the first answer. The next thing I want to do is I want to figure out the sum of A squares. So I want to figure out let me get sum of A this time squares. Now here, I don't have the A squares to sum so I can write the answer. So what I need to do is I need to produce the A squares. So I'm just going to produce another column. I'm going to call it the column of A squared. And I'm going to make it the same color. All right, so for this, I need to create a new set of numbers because I don't have any A squares to add. So I'm going to square these A's one by one. Well, in the old days, you'd have to square the 12, square the 40, square the 12, square the 5, square the 6, and then add them together. Today with Excel, I could just square the first one by clicking on it, say to the power of 2, and power is shift 6, the hat. And once I square the first one, I grab it, move it down, and it will square all the rest of the numbers in A. And it's a beautiful sort of thing to have in Excel that really makes life easy, and it just shortens the amount of operations and the amount of time you have to spend doing a simple operation instead of doing it on a calculator. So sum of A squares, see now that I have my A squares, I can add them up. So I can again either use the sum command and add them up, or I can come down here as I showed you earlier and just double tap on the summation sign on the auto sum and then sum it up. You get 1949, same thing. All right, so that's how you find the sum of A squares. The next thing I need to do is to create a minus b squared over b. Now for this, there's not going to be a single answer like these two. For this one, I'm going to have to do this to each pair, and I'm going to color each pair with different colors so you could realize that you need to do what I'm asking you to do to each different pairs, and you're going to get that many answers. We'll go with running out of colors. Yeah, let's go with that. So, and let me delete these. Very good. Let me get rid of the colors. No fill color. And, this number is 75. Let me write it 1949. Okay, so that's the answers for part A and B. Let me get rid of these. I was trying to clean this up as much as possible. So, you know, and let me get rid of this column. You select the column, you right click, and you say delete, and that's how you delete the column. All right, so now I need to do this. I need to do so I cleaned everything up, so I'll only have this to show you. All right, so I have to do a minus b squared divided by b. So I always like to write what I'm doing here, so later on when I go back to this, I can remember what I did. So in this operation, in this column, I'm going to produce a minus b's, and I'm going to square them. Then I'm going to divide them by b, and I'm going to list them here. Now, how do you do that? Well, here we go. So we're going to start with A, which is 12, minus B, which is 18. For that ordered pair, you need to do this, remember, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. So you're going to have 5 answers here. So you have to do A minus B squared over B for each ordered pair. For 12 and 18, for 40 and 28, for 12 and 7, for 5 and 50, and for 6 and 12. It always works that way. So close the parentheses to the power of 2. Divide by b, which is 18. And you see, you don't need to do this for every one of them. So you do it for one of them, and then you just drag it down, let it go, and there's the answer. So here's all the a minus b squares over b's. So if you do 40 minus 28 squared divided by 28, you get 5.1. If you do 12 minus 7 squared divided by 7, you get that. If you do 5 minus 50 squared divided by 50, you get that. If you do 6 minus 12 squared divided by 12, you get that. So that's what I've asked you to do for that part. So there's the answer. So the answer for a minus b squared over b is just not a single answer. These are all the answers. So if I put them in dark green are all the answers for that one. Now, the last one says add them up. So for the last one, all I have to do is just say sum and add up these numbers in green that I produced earlier. So the sum of a minus b squared over b is 54.214, 28571. All right, so those are problems 1, 2, and 3. Let's move on to problems 4 and 5. Okay.